Hi, welcome back to online weekly art and tech webinars from Fuel Arts. We're happy to meet you here this Thursday. And today we're going to speak about physical art and startups who are covering the physical art market, dealing with the art objects which represent traditional, so-called traditional art. We all are witnessing the bear market at the crypto economy of the crypto economy. But at the same time, Christie, Sotheby's, and Phillips combined auction sales in the first months of 2022 made up 7.4 billion, according to our tactic, which is up 25% compared to 6 months of 2021 and up more than 300% compared to the results of the first 6 months of 2020, the pandemic one. So this increase in sales in the first 6 months of a given year puts the auction, the public auction market at the first place in history. And today we're glad to discuss this and all the traditional art tech ecosystem with Tom Best, the founder of the Auction Collective from United Kingdom, former Christie's auctioneer and contemporary art specialist. So Tom received a master's degree in art history from St. Andrews University and started his career at Christie's Auction House as a specialist in Impressionist and Modern art, then later post-war and contemporary art. So he was one of the youngest auctioneers to take to a Christie's rostrum. What else to add? In 2020, 21, and 22, Tom was recognized as a Spears 500 top recommended art advisor. And back in 2014, was a finalist in the Young Turk Awards for Art Advisor of the Year. Hi, Tom.
Hello. Very wonderful introduction.
Yeah, thank you. What a great traction. I also took a gavel with me. Maybe it will help us. A real auctioneer should always have the gavel.
I've got several dotted around somewhere.
Yeah.
This is the one that my son now uses, and he definitely, under my instruction, he now walks around anytime he sees a hammer. He's only 2 years old, but anytime he sees a hammer, he picks it up and he hits it down and goes, "Sold," and then walks off. Genius.
It's good. It's better than if he said unsold.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm training him correctly.
Sold is the trademark of a real successful auctioneer. So our charming co-host today, as always, Sonia Stubblebine, project manager at Fuel Arts. So let's start our conversation. My first question would be like, Tom, how did you initially got interested in auction houses and art auctions after the art history department at St. Andrews?
It's not the most conventional route. I knew, I fell in love with art history and the history of art, and I knew I wanted to work in the art world. So I started doing work experience and internships everywhere I could, and I saw the auction world and just fell in love with it. So I managed to get work experience at the local auction house, and then I started doing fruit and vegetable auctions, doing small little kind of village hall fundraisers, selling sacks of potatoes and bags of apples for 20, 40, 50p, which was pretty rock and roll. And then managed from there to get into Christie's and onto the auctioneer school.
Amazing. And we wanted also to know, with your experience, as Dennis already said in introduction, how would you define the key problems in the art market? And what is your take, like how technology can actually solve these problems altogether?
Well, I think looking at it specifically from the auction side, I think there is still a big problem with it's becoming less so, but the duopoly that is Christie's and Sotheby's, wonderful brands, amazing what they do, and really great. And Philips, you know, is coming up through the ranks and disrupting that a little bit. But still, when anyone thinks of an auction where everyone wants to make a big sale, that's always the kind of two options. And I think that's a huge problem. And I think the way that technology will change that and enable more people to get into the marketplace is purely through the auction software and accessibility that is being created more and more. I think, you know, from my days starting up the Auction Collective, I still can't believe that I was able to set up an auction house. And, you know, 20 years ago, people wouldn't really have been able to do it and scale to the way that we did. You know, we had, what do we have now? It's 27 buyers from 27 different countries. And that happened, you know, quite quickly in the grand scheme of things. And that was all through social media, using email marketing, getting a website, you know, relatively cheap things to do. The key one that's missing though is what I think, and it's where our business is heading, is affordable auction software that gives more people the power to run auctions. And I think that there will be more disruption in that space, I think disruption is a bit of a cruel word, because it's not just disrupting, enabling more kind of opportunities arising through people putting up challenger auctions, even if they're not auction houses. Look at Pharrell started his auction house. Kanye West sold a pair of sneakers at Sotheby's for 2.2 million, and he's recently done a new collaboration with Sotheby's again. There's no need for Kanye West to do an auction through Sotheby's. Kanye West has got more, and this is a fact because I sat down and worked it out. Kanye West has got more Instagram followers than Sotheby's, Christie's, Philips combined. If he did his own auction, I know that not all of his followers are going to have multi-million-pound budgets, but he would certainly get the marketing and he would certainly find those people. It just seems bizarre that he needs to go to a big traditional beast to do it. Like, the way the world is moving, you don't need to do that anymore. So I think that's going to happen, and you'll be surprised to know we're working on making that happen as well. So it better bloody happen.
Yes, please be sure. We'll ask you about it. So yeah, your key findings and your comparisons are really amazing. We'll for sure highlight it in the follow-up to this particular webinar in social media, because your comparisons are really amazing and quite wise. So Tom, I remember how we met with you. It was 2018. It was Christie's Art and Tech Conference. So we're sitting next to each other and we asked each other, what are you doing here? So you said that you are trying to implement blockchain to the auction business. And I said, okay, and I'm trying to implement blockchain to the collection management system. So we shook hands and then started implementing, or better say discovering, because back in 2019, we've been only discovering the possibilities of blockchain. So 4 years passed since that, we still are discovering the potential of blockchain. The public auction market is still alive and it shows great results. We are experiencing the next crypto winter. But my question is, so what finally influenced you to start the Auction Collective?
Well, the original, I feel like there's been 2, almost 3 iterations of the Auction Collective. The thing that first inspired me to do it was we started off as in-person auctions that were very event focused. We'd have beer sponsors, we'd have music. It was real kind of millennial get together. This is 2018, when Instagram stories even a thing then, or just everyone was posting on Instagram anyhow. And it was a real millennial event experience. And the thing that inspired me to start it was I had friends wanting to buy affordable art. I knew emerging artists that wanted to sell, but there wasn't this auction environment to do it. So started doing that. But then we pivoted to become a platform, and that was inspired by market demand. people wanting to go direct to the sellers, go direct to the artists, as well as artists wanting to build up relationships with their buyers. And so we then pivoted to become a platform and opened up the website to more people. And now we're doing that even more by creating an auction SaaS product.
Okay, we wanted to also know, what are the services you provide today? With what kind of services did you start it, and how did it change to today?
So what we do now is we help people run auctions rather than running them ourselves and being the curator that brings it all together, rather than being like a Christie's or Sotheby's, Phillips that brings it together and hosts the auction. We help other people, we enable other people to run their own auctions. And that's in-person auctions, that's live streamed auctions, that's hybrid, so live stream and in person, timed auctions, which is the eBay style countdown clock. And we've even started print auctions as well. And we support with everything from advice, running the gig, payment, shipping, everything to make your life easy, so anyone can run an auction.
Sounds great. And do you provide art advisory on the side as a part of it?
Exactly, and the art advisory kind of goes hand in hand and helps keep everyone happy. There's a lot of people that miss out on auctions as well. But the next thing that we're going to do is this auction SaaS product, so that people can run auctions from their own websites. So you can customize it to look like your page, it's your own data, it's your own gig, and we will help with marketing so they can list it on our platform. But when people click to bid, they actually go through to the seller's website, be that an artist, charity, or gallery. And that's super exciting.
Is that the next step, or are you currently already working on it?
We're working on it. We're still it's in the development stage, so that will be hopefully launched early next year.
Very exciting.
Very
cool. So, and what audience does the Auction Collective target?
We've got two types of audience. We've got the sellers, and that is artists, charities, galleries, brands as well. We help a lot of brands do fundraising auctions or PR campaigns. So it's good to raise awareness for their brand by taking their product, customizing it with an artist, and making a big song and dance about it. Because the great thing with our auctions, because it's their auction, it's not the auction house running it, they get their own dashboard where they can see the bids happening, they can see the back end of the auction, and they can see everyone that's registered. It's their data to them kind of build those relationships with and make future sales. So there's a lot of new galleries have been using our auctions to kind of kickstart their database by running an auction, meeting new people and going. And then our buyers, they range from the one-off art collector to the emerging collector that's looking for the affordable bit and going from there to some incredibly high net worth established collectors. The joy of it is we kind of see what our sellers want to bring to the platform and sell. We sold everything from 50 £50 work on paper all the way up to we sold a car from one of the James Bond films recently. We sold a van that was used to evacuate Ukrainian refugees, and that had been, the artist had taken this van and they had covered it in resin to kind of preserve it as a relic from the war, and then that was sold for $250,000, I think. So yeah, it's a wide range of buyers. It's a big audience.
So, yeah, sorry, Sonia, I'd like to clarify. So you say that the Auction Collective works with the primary market as well, because it's very important, because a lot of auction houses, they just can't allow themselves to do that due to their statutes. So you do, and you're just providing, let's say, the key, the entrance for the primary market representatives like artists and dealers to their fame.
Exactly. So we started off by being just primary market. We still primary market is our main focus, but there are other kind of objects that come along as we go. But yeah, primary market is where we're at, and it's also with the involvement of the artist. So when we work with a charity that's running a fundraising auction, they are artworks that have been donated by the artist, and so it's still primary market to that extent, but it's being sold by the charity. And what's great is that the artists get behind the auctions and promote them. So we had one moment last year where, do you know an artist called Flora Jukhanovic?
Sure.
She's a contemporary artist doing quite well at the moment. She donated a work to one of the auctions, and another auction house, a very big auction house, had a very similar artworks. So we had two of them. They had one. They work on papers. All of them were estimated the same. I think it was about 4,000 to 6,000. The one that sold in the local in the big auction house sold for about 24,000. It's a great result, but her market was flying, and our one sold for about 40,000. The reason why ours sold for more than the big established auction house was because Flora got behind the one that was sold with us because it was a charity one and she had donated it, rather than it coming from one of her collectors that was then flipping it onto the market. So she promoted ours on her Instagram account and it went wild. So it's really interesting to see we have a much closer relationship with the artists because they are there to support and get involved, either because they're selling directly or it's being sold with their approval, if you like, rather than it coming from a collector who's then putting it off, which is different and wonderful.
We also wanted to know your story a little bit because, as I read, the Auction Collective was launched in 2017. And then, of course, everyone was reading about how COVID impacted everything. So how would you say actually COVID impacted the Auction Collective? Did it change the company somehow or how you ran the business?
Yeah, it kind of accelerated our pivot to become a platform. It was always bubbling away in the background, this kind of niggling fear that what's our purpose? Like, are we getting in the way of sales when people want to go direct to an artist and vice versa? And then when the pandemic happened and the lockdowns happened, and there were things like the artist support pledge, big Instagram phase where artists were doing huge sales through Instagram. And all the artists suddenly created digital presences. Everyone had an online shop. And we found, a buyer would go onto our website. The first thing you're going to do, if you're buying a sofa, you're buying a work of art, you're buying anything, is you highlight it, right click, new window, where can I get it cheaper? Oh, cool, I'm going direct to the artist. Direct to the artist might not be cheaper, but it makes me feel like it's going to be cheaper, and I've got a direct relationship. And so I suppose the pandemic, it just accelerated all of that and made us go there quicker, which is great because it means we didn't, it's always good to accelerate where you're heading to. And our online capabilities, I said earlier, we were set up as the in-person event experience. And I did an interview with a newspaper, I think it was a Telegraph, when we first started, and they said, what's your unique selling point? And I was like, we are in person. We are, I believe in the aura of an artwork and seeing it in person and the excitement of an auction to get everyone involved. And there's a quote, you can find it online, where I say, we will never just do online auctions. It will always have, that in-person experience. Then the pandemic happened and I looked like an idiot, and we now do the majority of our auctions are online. So it's, made changed our kind of setup as well.
Thank you, Tom. And what about the the other key milestones you'd like to highlight to our audience? I mean, the key milestones from, let's say, from since your launch in 2017, and probably you could disclose something which you are expected for in future, maybe a new investment round.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the first big milestone for me, which I almost burst into tears when it happened, was we created downloadable bidding paddles. So you download your bidding paddle when you come to the auction, you have it on your phone, you then wave your phone in the auction, and that's got your bidding paddle on it. so saving whole kind of need for bids administration. And I had that as like a 2-year plan, because I was like, well, it'll take ages to do. That's really complicated. And the devs turned around and were like, cool, it's ready for the next auction. I was like, the fuck? Well, how exciting. And when somebody first bid like that in the auction, it was so emotional. I was like, this is a huge goal for me. And that was amazing. And I didn't realize it was going to be the world's first downloadable bidding paddle, but I can't find any evidence of anyone else doing it. Then I suppose big tech milestones were it's small things like being able to create our own auction software from scratch means that I can take all the experience that I've had from working in other auction houses and do it the new way, the better way. Now I'm still baffled how timed auctions, so online only auctions, a lot of people still do what's called a cascade closing of auction lots. So lot 1 closes, and then lot 2, then lot 3, and sometimes there's a time period between them, and they get bidding extensions. But it seems really bizarre because it's recreating the bad bits of a physical auction. So in our auctions, we have a countdown clock, but it extends the whole auction if somebody bids in the last minute. So if you're bidding on lot 17 and you get outbid, you can then go back to lot 1 and bid on that one, because you might think that was my second choice. Whereas in the cascade, you can't do that. And so there's small things where we got to reinvent how the auctions work because we didn't have senior people telling us what to do. Anyhow, that like the small kind of tech milestones. Other big milestones, when we made over 1 million in gross merchandise volume, then over 2 million, then 3 million. We did a big fundraise recently, big fundraise, 500,000 to develop our new software. And we've, I suppose, countless milestones all along the way. But the next big one will be the launch of this new software, which is coming soon.
Cool. We'll be happy to track your activity. And by the way, I do not agree that the enumerated features digital features which you introduced are small ones, because they are very essential. They are, some of them, especially the second one you've mentioned, it gives, it reduces the risk of speculation and some kind of fraud during auctions, which is very important.
Yeah. And it's great that you kind of see that and pick up on that. And that's what's been so fun about creating a tool from scratch. Another small detail that, you can really get into the auction psychology. Most auction platforms have the number of bids that have been shown. So it says 25 bids on this lot. We've changed that to the number of bidders. So it says 5 bidders, because we know that psychologically when you know that there's other people bidding, you're more likely to get involved rather than just knowing how far it's gone up. Lots of personal goals.
I wanted also to ask you, what were your emotions? What was your reaction when you first heard about this famous sale of people's work, for 69 million? What did you think about it?
It's cool. I think I don't think I'll go down in the art history quotes, but just super cool and really exciting to be. I think the biggest thing for me was, you read so much about pivotal moments in history. Like I'm a historian at heart, and you read so much about pivotal moments in history and art history and market history. The rise of the contemporary art market was an extraordinary time, and you look at that and you think, how cool would it have been to have been there? And when this happened, it's like, we're witnessing history, we're witnessing a turning point of the art market, and that's really exciting. And I can't wait to tell my kids about this one day in the future, when they go, so what happened when people sold that and everything changed? Let me tell you. I can tell you about the reactions of the market, and it just feels really great to have witnessed this, to be part of the conversation and just been listening to all the hype and kind of this injection of enthusiasm into digital art, but also raising the fears that other people had, and just hearing that dialogue. It just opened up this whole exciting debate that I thought was really, really fun, which I hope is a good thing to think.
Actually, Tom, are you planning to integrate NFT sales in the auction collective?
We are, but it's taking a bit. We've got other priorities at the moment because our unique selling point now is that people can use our software to run their auctions. They get all their own data, it's their own gig. But the next bit is that they get even more brand identity and no dilution through their branding, and that's going to be big, and that's our focus at the moment. We want to do, enable that for NFTs as well, but that'll be kind of the second iteration. However, we've just hired, and closing the hire of our CTO and the rest of our devs, so they might have other plans and bring it further quicker than I hope. But it's definitely there. It's a long term. Yeah.
Please tell your CTO when he's ready. Please feel free contacting us. We'll recommend you the best blockchain for art needs.
Perfect. Well, we'll arrange another call.
I also wanted to know, with you being in auctions for so many years, what auction would you highlight as the most memorable or exciting one for you?
It's a really interesting question, that, because your immediate go-to is to think about the highest value ones. That of auctions that I've taken as an auctioneer.
We can take about both, about auctions that you've been as auctioneer and things that you actually saw.
I think as me as an auctioneer, like the go-to is normally to go to the highest value things. But I've sold a Lamborghini Veneno for $8 million, sold Picassos for over $1 million. Those are great, but the most exciting ones are not the surprises. They're the ones that have the most bids and the most activity. So I remember at Christie's, I sold a Kurt Schwitter's sculpture that the estimate was about 40 to 60, and it sold for £700,000. And the bidding through that was so exciting, going up through the increments, having people shout out numbers in the room, and that kind of the energy, the excitement, the playing of the bids. That's the really fun things. And I suppose we had that recently. We sold George Michael's piano during a live streamed auction. It was live stream and in person. And we started the bidding at £2,000, and it sold for £200,000. And we had bidders from about 13 countries, wow, and 160 bidders. And that was super exciting, just to get all that energy, all those bids flying up, and really playing with it. So I think those are the ones that stand out in my memory. But the ones I'm excited to see is the Paul Allen auction at Christie's coming up. That seems like that's going to be a pretty big deal.
We should follow that. Thank you.
From my experience, I know that the staff of the leading world's auction houses, the staff are not allowed to say artworks, meaning artworks. They should say assets, to stay ignorant, to stay aside, to keep their emotions, to remain emotional. Yeah, I mean the commercial departments of those auction houses, not the auctioneers. So they should say they should call artworks assets, and they should relate to artworks as for assets.
Huh.
So I told that as the, let's say, preamble to my next question. If you, Tom, could change or implement new elements in the world's leading auction houses, so what would those changes be?
Well, it's a big question. I mean, aside from...
We're expecting for a rich answer.
Well, where to begin? I think obviously I feel they could all do a lot more to recruit outside of the traditional art world sources. I feel like it's a very narrow community from which they recruit from, but that's a kind of bugbear on the side. In terms of running the business commercially and having, I kind of don't want to give the secret away, but me, an art historian that started selling fruit and vegetables at the local village hall, I've somehow managed to create an auction platform, and we're about to launch some auction software for people to have even more independence around their auctions. And I feel like the big auction houses, focusing on the top of the pyramid, I can see why they do that. It's much higher value, it's lower transactions. But at the bottom of the pyramid, there's so much art around. There's so many assets around. There's so much there to be sold. And I feel like today's seller, the decisions that are often made up at the top are by very traditional people who've been in the company maybe 20, 30 years. They started off, you speak to them about when they did valuations. You'd go with a camera, you'd take loads of photos, you'd get the film developed, and then you'd come back and you put the valuation together for the client. There's a belief that many clients don't use software themselves, yet the next generation are also tech savvy, that there's no reason that there can't be some really slick self-serve software that means you can reach the bottom of the pyramid without actually having to use a huge amount of resources. So I would definitely engage in the kind of bottom part of the pyramid by creating a more self-serve marketplace that leverages the brands and the networks and the audience to just make loads of sales at a lower value. But I'm just a humble auctioneer that sells fruit and veg.
Thank you, Tom. I also want to ask you, you've been talking, like you just mentioned, this new generation of collectors. So how would you describe them, and how would you generally describe how collecting changed within your career as you've been there for years now?
I think collectors are much more, it used to be that collectors would be educated on artwork through exhibitions, through texts, through just school and university. Is a kind of very, again, focused part of art history that everyone learns about, Western Europe and then America, and kind of that's the focus. But now I feel like collectors, and then they would then go to an auction house to then seek out those artists to buy them, or go to a gallery to buy them. But now I feel like it's a much bigger shift where the auction houses and the galleries are educating people on new artists, and they'll educate them, they'll introduce them, and then the collectors will go off and become armchair specialists. They'll sit on the computer, they go on Instagram, and they'll do their own research to then come back and make the purchase. But it's almost as if it's kind of pivoted and it's the other way around. And I think that's what I help people take auctions across the world. And there's an amazing groups of artists in lots of different regions from all over the world that are now getting up to an international stage, that are often from the same period as some of their more established, American or Western Europe contemporaries, but at fractions of the price. And they were still creating in the same time, the same influences, the same energy, the same excitement, the same groundbreaking work. Like, look at a lot of the artists in Central and Eastern Europe. I work with an auction house called Anzazura that are based in Romania. And you look at some of the artwork, it's incredible dates and incredibly powerful, like surrealist work from the 30s. And this is challenging much of the traditional surrealist work. Why don't people know about this? And you look at the price and you think, wow, this is extraordinary. And I think today's collector, the next generation, is much more aware of that and kind of has confidence in educating themselves and then going after the objects that they realize are good, rather than having to go with what they've been taught through traditional ways.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I have a general question before we come to the questions from our audience. So what is your take on the future of auction houses and online marketplaces? Once you respond, I'll have an additional one.
Excellent. I think it follows on from that last point, that with the globalization of the world, with the everywhere internet that connects us all together, and you can research something online from something that's selling in the other side of the world, and you can tune in to bid in an auction, or you can send the gallery a request to buy it, and international shipping. It's so easy to buy from anywhere in the world, and it is so much easier now, and it's getting easier and easier for people to set up and reach those audiences. If you look at it a very basic way, you can set up a business within a day. Well, maybe registering a business legally takes 2 days, but you can create your website, your mailing list, your social media, everything. You can do that within a morning. And then with a few, tactical marketing stunts, you can target people from across the world. And I think that there will be a rise of much more regional, geographical auction houses and art galleries that really gain a reputation for focusing on their geography, but almost become a challenger to the bigger, more established art spaces. And I think that's already happening, and that's exciting. But then I also think there'll be a lot of people cutting out the middleman of a gallery or auction house with more self-serve marketplaces and things like that. So I suppose in the public marketplaces, public auctions, there'll be more challenger, geographically based auction houses, and then the private marketplaces, people cutting out the middleman and making sales themselves, is going to happen.
Thank you, Tom. Amazing reply. So my addition is the following. Before the pandemic, the art market was divided into strictly positioned, let's say, public auction market, which was represented by secondary market, secondary sales, and the gallery, private market, gallery and dealers market, representing mostly primary market, young artists, the new series of artworks. So the pandemic, as we know, it changed the games, and more auction houses like Philips during pandemic, they officially announced that they are starting working with the primary market. I don't know what had been before, but they officially announced they started doing that. Now we hear from you that the auction collective also works with the primary market. So my question is, don't you think that sooner or later auction houses will start acting as galleries in terms of producing the artistic careers? Because nowadays galleries are managing artistic careers, and collectors who are looking at the artists represented by galleries, they understand there is a huge lobby behind them, so they buy them. So what's your opinion?
It's fascinating, and it's the worlds are definitely merging. The boundaries are merging between them all. They're also merging in the other direction as well. You look at Damien Hirst when he ran his auction in 2008. He didn't even go through the gallery. He did his own massive auction. Marina Abramovich doing primary market sales at Christie's as well. You've also got lots of galleries. I think, is it Hauser and Wirth, or was it Gagosian, that's now doing a big charity auction lot? It's a one lot charity auction, and that's really interesting to do it as an auction, but do it themselves rather than going through the bigger auction houses. And so I think there is this movement between the areas, but it's also not particularly new. If you look at Christie's when they had Haunch of Venison, which was a private sales gallery space, Sotheby's had S2, and I can't remember who it was, whether it was Sotheby's or Christie's, but they actually got involved in putting down a down payment for a Jeff Koons sculpture to help. That was it. It was part of the agreement. Is they funded the build, what's it called? Funded the construction of Jeff Koons sculpture directly to the studio, and so by them putting that in, that's a direct artist auction house relationship for that work. So I think it will continue to shift and change, and in the same way that you see, you know, Elon Musk wanting Twitter to be the app for everyone, I think that auction houses will continue to flex and move to see if they can be the place for everyone. Look back through Christie's history of, you know, they used to sell Christie cigarettes, Christie's branded cigarettes, because that's providing, you know, the everyday, every person service for their clients. The Sotheby's moving into big player in the real estate, but also working with the car auctions, and then the luxury retail. Is it Sotheby's that have just launched a range of sneakers that are, where they're coming from, Virgil Abloh's studio or something? There's a specific sale, it's primary market sale, and they are exclusively being retailed through them. That, yeah, I think it's all merging, and it's all very exciting because they're all pushing each other, challenging each other, and then whilst all this is happening, someone else will just creep up in the background and surprise them all. Did I just ramble for too long about the wrong thing? I think it's the auctioneer's problem.
Cool. I mean, really amazing. Thank you. We have some questions from the audience.
Yeah, so we have, thank you for the webinar. Tom, what are your tips for those who are just starting, so who want to start our tech startup? Is it the right time to start in terms of market situation?
It's always the right time. I was speaking to someone who wanted to quit their job, and they were going to do it a couple of years ago, but then the pandemic started, and they're like, oh, it's not a good time to quit. And then they were going to do it previous year, but it's like, oh, we're still in a pandemic and there's lockdowns. And then they were going to do it this year, and like, oh, it's a global economy meltdown. Like, oh, when do I do it? So who knows? The world's so messed up at the moment. You never know what's going to happen in the next few years. So you've got to do it now. Just get out there and do it and get started. And even if it's a half-baked idea, start learning, get your hands dirty, experience, and then you'll soon find out what it is, but you'll at least have some evidence and can get cracking with the next bit. So yes, do it now and just get going.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. So we in 45 minutes we've explored all the primary market, and we explored it from the, I mean, from the tech side and from the historical side, and also disclosed some secrets of the auctions. So that's really brilliant. That was a great talk.
Good. Well, I really enjoyed it. Thank you, and thanks for all the questions. They got me thinking, and I'm going to be thinking about them for a lot longer as well, and know that I'll be coming up with much better answers and much more less controversial ones.
Thank you, Tom. It was super interesting. We're very happy to have you today.
The pleasure was all mine.
Again, we are encouraging all investors to look at the Auction Collective before your upcoming investment round, because the features that you introduce are really those that the art market had a lack of. So what was needed for sure. Saying
well,
art market, I mean both the site responsible for consumption, for selling and for buying. So both buyers and sellers.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We got a huge amount of other exciting things happening. So, you know, always welcome and always keen to speak to anyone.
Good. Sorry, I haven't heard Was it a question or not?
No, I was just saying I'm excited to speak to anyone about the business. It's a fun place to be right now.
Good. So hopefully that all happens in the nearest time, and we trust in art. We at Fuel Arts, to be true, we also do not call art as asset. We call art as art. So we are emotionally driven persons still.
Good.
Thank you, Tom. See you around.
Nice one. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.